Hello everybody. Well, let me just start with this. If anybody watched the Mariann Budde video I did yesterday, I'd like to say thank you. And those who didn't, I'd like to just square a few round pegs, because I don't want to cause confusion. I have read some of the comments, and the way I approached the video was to look at it from two perspectives. One perspective is viewing the priesthood as a type of apostolic succession, and the other perspective I looked at it was from a biblical perspective, on looking at it from the basis of scripture and how it applies to pastorship in modern days. And I felt going through both of them, it was quite evident and conclusive that women should not be church leaders of any type, whether that's in an Anglican Catholic tradition or low church evangelical, where Eucharist is just seen as a symbol with no apostolic succession. Because not only is the scripture crystal clear, I also think, traditionally speaking, defining the priesthood and understanding what that means, going back all the way to Abraham, then it's clear and consistent that it should be a man only, male only duty. Deacons, that's another issue. I know the Catholic Church is very strict, won't allow female deacons, but there is evidence that we had female deacons in the New Testament. So, of course, there's a scriptural basis for female deacons, but there isn't for elders, priests, and bishops. And anyway, that all got me thinking, where does that leave the Baptist Church? I was thinking, like, I've got a big American audience. I'm aware that the Baptists are the majority of Christians in America. And I'm also aware there was a big storm last year at the Baptist Southern Conference, where I believe there was a 60% vote for female pastors, but it didn't avail because they required a 75% vote. I think they required a 3/4 vote. So as things stand, in the Southern Baptist Church in America, it is male only. In fact, I believe it's one of the reasons why Rick Warren, who now runs the Saddleback Church, left the Southern Baptist Church. But drop me a comment if I'm wrong on that or mistaken, but I believe he left because of that. And the reason why I want to talk about this is because I study at a Baptist seminary college. Now, I'm not Baptist. However, I chose to study there for the fact that they are conservative minded, and they have a very, very, very high view on what it says in scripture, which I think actually is very important, because that safeguards the church. I've always said that, and I've always believed that. And the reason why I don't do my theology in an Anglican seminary or college is because they're overrun by this lefty, liberal wokeism. And they're promoting all types of apostasies. But Anglicanism's still very much in my heart. I grew up Catholic. I'm very culturally Catholic. For me, Anglicanism was the middle ground. It was the middle ground between being a hardcore Bible-believing Baptist to a traditional apostolic radical traditionalist Catholic. It made sense. It towed the line. And there are Orthodox Anglican churches. There's not many, but there's a few, and that's what's keeping me in there. But having said that, I attend Baptist worship with my wife, who is actually a Baptist. So I'm very close. My heart is very close to Baptist people. And I've made an observation, not just in England, not just America, but across the world. And my observation is the majority of Baptist churches have male-only pastorship. And I was thinking, why is that? Why is that the majority of Baptist churches have male-only pastorship? Is it because they're all a bunch of fundamentalists and they believe what Paul said to the nth degree? No, it's not. I don't think it is that. It might be the case with some brethren churches, but I actually think it's because of what I said earlier. Baptists have a very high view on what's in Scripture, and it's pretty crystal clear that women should not be spiritually in authority to men. Unless it's a women-only church, it's just not fathomable. It's just not what Christ ordained. He chose 12 apostles. They were all men. That is for a reason. Sometimes I think we have to apply common sense. I really do. I think another reason why Baptist churches are holding strong on this is because most of their churches run independently. They have a very polity system of governance where it's bottom heavy, and major decisions tend to get made among members and treasurers and deacons and people that would normally get a say. People in the Church of England probably wouldn't even get invited to a synod. I mean, don't get me wrong, synods are getting better. They are starting to invite a more diverse crowd. But traditionally speaking, synods were more for clergymen, right? Maybe deacons, but the buck stops there. So what you have is a watertight, rigorous system that's faithful to God. And they don't allow this liberal cancer to seep through the cracks. Baptist churches are in a good position for that. Also, a lot of non-denominational as well are in a good position for that. And it's worth taking note, guys. It's worth, because it's easy for a lot of us to look down at other denominations and run our mouth and say, you know, they're not the one true church, blah, blah, blah. But then you have to think to yourself, what churches are holding a strong position in 2025 to stop the rot, right? I mean, we've seen the chaos in the Episcopalian Church with Mariann Budde, and that's across America. The ACNA are still holding strong, but for the time being, there is a decline, guys. There is a slippery slope. The Presbyterians have been done over on this. The Methodists have been mostly done over on this. I think you've only got the Globalist Methodist Church that are still relatively orthodox. You know, the Roman Catholic Church have stated they cannot, it's not that they don't want to, they just theologically cannot allow women to be pastors because of the persona Christi, which is great. It safeguards the church from heresy. The Eastern Orthodox Church, I think, similar. But I want to focus more on the evangelical sphere because that's where women are starting to dominate and take over. And I also want to, I guess, understand, and I've probably got a lot of Baptists that watch this YouTube channel, to get a bit of insight and perspective. Like, do you think the Baptist church can withhold this? Or do you think eventually a lot of Baptist churches, because of the congregations are becoming more and more liberal, because areas are becoming more liberal, that eventually they will crack? I'm wondering, because I've got a pretty good insight. Like I said, I study at Charles Spurgeon's College. It's in South London, very diverse part of the city. We have students coming from everywhere. We even have them across the ponds, a few American guys. And I have to say, looking at the people that are studying for ministry, because I'm not doing that, I'm not doing ministry formation, but looking at the ones that are, it is majority men. And I would go with about 75%. So I'd say every 4 people, one of them's probably a woman. There's one in my class, but that's a class of 15. So that gives you a rough idea, right? We're not overwhelmed by females. But when you compare that to Anglican seminary, I've been told that the classes are now half filled with women going for priesthood. So there's a difference. And why is that? Again, because one holds high level on scripture, and one, I'm not even going to say tradition, one relies on tradition that can change, and that's actually the danger. You know, man-made tradition, you know, accretions. And that is why I think that especially the classical Protestants are starting to surrender to heterodoxy at the expense of good old-fashioned orthodoxy. But look, I had to take note of this. I had to do this video on this because I think you have to give credit where credit's due sometimes. And I have to credit the Baptist Church for holding strong on this. And I think, from my observations, I'm not sure the Pentecostal Church are doing quite as well. Pentecostal being very charismatic, very modern, tend not to use traditional hymns. They tend to be very sort of forward-thinking, innovative, sadly at their own detriment, because although they do great things, and I'm a charismatic myself, although I don't believe in public tongues in worship, and Pentecostals do, that's probably why I'm not Pentecostal, but I can't help but thinking they are also surrendering to women in pastorship, because I've seen it in my own observation. I get it on Facebook. I get invitations to go to these Pentecostal conferences, these rallies, these revivals, renewals, all these types of Pentecostal things, local churches doing gatherings. And I look at who's in pastorship, and it's often the husband and the wife, both doing it. In some places, just a woman. So again, I can't say it's just a classical Protestant thing. It's seeping into non-denominational churches as well. Obviously, Baptist churches are safeguarded with a lot of their confessions, but some don't uphold confessions. The church I go to do not uphold Baptist confessions, although they view them highly. They don't uphold them as if they're dogma. So yeah, this is it's an interesting conversation. Put it in your comments if you go to a Baptist church and have a female pastor. I don't think it's very common. In fact, there's one lady on my course who's still waiting for placement. They've not been able to get her a replacement. She's been rejected by a lot of churches. Now she's got to consider traveling 20-30 miles from her house to find placement. Tell me if you think that women should be pastors in Baptist churches. I'd love to hear from you. I think this is a fascinating conversation, and I think we need to have it. But anyway, give the video a like if you found it efficacious and edifying. If you haven't hit the bell, please do. I'm going to do more and more of these videos. Obviously, don't forget to subscribe if you haven't. I've now hit 600, which is brilliant. Let's go higher. Let's hit 1,000. And have a blessed day. Thank you for watching. Take care.